A couple of Octobers ago, my girlfriend and I had an unnerving experience during a photo shoot that is a perfect fit for your horror channel. One which I will never forget. Let me start by saying I'm a huge Halloween buff, hands down my favorite holiday. Normally I go all out every October by decorating my room, hosting horror movie marathons, and going to every Halloween event I can track down. But this was in the fall of 2020, when the pandemic wiped out Halloween like it wiped out prom, graduation, and everything else that year. With Halloween one day away, I was frustrated that I hadn't done a single spooky thing all month long. I was in the backyard with my dog, mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, when I realized that nothing was stopping me from making the best of my semi-isolation. And so I improvised. I decided to pitch my girlfriend the idea of doing a Gothic-themed photo shoot. I knew about a small abandoned church on the outskirts of town. It was off a state road on the way to my old piano teacher's house, and was visible through the trees for just a fraction of a second. I'd driven past it 100 times growing up, and every time I caught a glimpse of it, I imagined it would be a cool place to explore. I texted my girlfriend the plan. We'd drive out there the next day as soon as her mom got home from work. I'd bring my camera gear and she could bring some outfits. At a minimum, we'd have some spooky content for Instagram. I used Google Maps to find a side road adjacent to the church. Our plan was to hike through the woods so we'd go undetected by any busybodies. I grabbed my camera bag and my girlfriend's wardrobe suitcase, and we headed in the general direction of the church. Now, my girlfriend is very much the law-abiding good girl type, so when we ran into a no trespassing sign, I was worried she'd make us turn back. But I was wrong. She didn't say a word. In fact, she went out of her way to ignore the sign altogether, pretended like it wasn't even there. That's when I realized she was just as dedicated to this adventure as I was. When we emerged from the woods and saw the church for the first time, we were not disappointed. It looked awesome in the distance, very creepy, very foreboding. I took a couple of exterior shots and then we walked over. The closer we got, the creepier the vibe. Boarded up windows, broken glass, paint peeling off the walls. It looked like something straight out of a horror film. We walked up to the front door, but we were disappointed to discover that it was padlocked closed. We were hoping vandals or vagrants would have torn it off so we could shoot inside. But it wasn't a big setback. The exterior was the star anyway and would make for an awesome backdrop. We set up shop in the back of the church and my girlfriend changed into a black dress she called her Gothic wedding gown. We took a series of shots on the front steps. Once we got a bunch of those, I took some wider shots to really get a sense of the isolation. Then she went to change into her next outfit, and I got some clean shots of just the building exterior. After I'd pretty much shot out the front and the side of the church, I started taking pictures of the rundown signage. As I was scrolling through the footage, Carrie called out my name.
Danny?
I responded that I was out front, but then she started frantically
Danny!
calling my name over and over. I assumed she ran into a homeless person and rushed to the backside of the church. Carrie was against the wall staring into the woods. I followed her gaze to see a kid wearing a bizarre-looking animal mask staring back at us. After staring at him for a few seconds, I nonchalantly lifted my camera and took a picture. The kid must have noticed this because he immediately turned around and then walked into the woods and out of sight. We stood there in silence for a long moment, and then my girlfriend broke the tension by saying, "Friend of yours?" We both laughed and then we got back to the photo shoot. We started by moving all our stuff to the front side of the church and then went through the motions of shooting the new outfit. Now, seeing a kid in a mask on Halloween isn't necessarily the most unexpected thing you could imagine. But we were out in the middle of nowhere, trespassing on private property, and this kid was alone, just standing there staring at us. It's hard to describe just how unsettling it was. But things felt different now. I had that oppressive feeling of being watched. I constantly felt the need to glance over my shoulder, and despite no one being there, that feeling continued to grow. Once we shot everything interesting from the front of the church, we decided to go check out the back. Mid-pose, my girlfriend's expression went from playful to terrified in an instant.
Danny!
I looked over and saw the boy from earlier with a masked woman who said, "You shouldn't be here." Carrie grabbed my arm and we ran. She still had her heels on, and as we rounded the corner, she slipped and sprawled out on the grass. I pulled her up and we rushed over to our things. We were hurriedly packing up when I felt that sensation of being watched again. I looked up and saw the masked woman was just a few feet away. She anxiously prodded us to hurry, telling me, "They'll be here soon." I finished securing my camera and then grabbed Carrie's suitcase. The two of us rushed toward the woods as fast as we could manage, despite my girlfriend still wearing heels. It was a 5-minute trek back to the car, and the entire time I couldn't stop thinking about the panicked look on that woman's face and wondering who exactly she was referring to as being on their way. We got to the car and I loaded up the bags while my girlfriend took off her heels and got behind the wheel. By the time I climbed into the passenger seat, the boy had emerged from the woods and was standing on the road watching us. My girlfriend drove away while keeping an eye on him in the rearview mirror. I suddenly yelled at her name and she looked forward just in time to slam on the brakes. A group of people in masks were walking along the dirt road. They split in half and walked past us on either side of the car. Once they were clear, my girlfriend let off the brake and drove us home. Or more accurately, she drove like hell until we were back in civilization. We haven't stopped talking about that day since. In a way, it was the best and worst Halloween scare we've ever had. Still have no idea what was going on. Part of me thinks it was just a wacky Halloween thing, and part of me thinks we stumbled on a cult ritual. If anyone knows anything about this, email me at darthoptimuswren@gmail.com. And for those of you that have listened this far, go ahead and wish everyone a happy Halloween in the comments. And remember, you're never alone, even when you're trespassing at an abandoned church and you think you are.